Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here, talking today about Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Remastered, because this game is incredibly fascinating. The project itself is more than a remaster, but it's not quite a remake. It fits in this strange middle ground that honestly I kind of love, but we do need to discuss the parts of it that aren't so great. Alright, if you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It's time to dive deep. But let's begin by discussing what it is exactly Crisis Core is. When Final Fantasy VII originally came out back in the 90s on the PlayStation, this thing created such an explosion in the entire world. It made it where everybody wanted to buy a PS1 just to play it. People instantly began to get addicted to the magic system, the cutscenes, the lore, and they started to beg Square Enix for another taste of the FF7 universe. And to answer these cries, they ended up creating a very strange sequel and a movie, and finally we got a prequel in the form of Crisis Core, which unfortunately was exclusive to the PSP. Well, finally, it's come back. This is a big, complete telling of all of the events that lead directly into the original Final Fantasy VII, and also, in a way, to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. In this game, instead of playing as Cloud, we play as this guy named Zack. He is a soldier who's trying to climb the ranks and be Shinra's best employee, to be the guy who can defend the world, to make Midgar safe, and stop the Wutai threat. Now, definitely the most interesting part about this remaster remake they've done is the complete rebuilding of the characters themselves. The original game actually looked pretty dang impressive for a PSP. These are the original PSP graphics. I mean, they definitely don't suck. Even these days, the original character models, the original graphics were decent, but they could definitely use a good update. For Crisis Core Reunion, it seems like to a heavy degree, they've gone in and used a lot of the assets that have been created for the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, and they're just putting them in here. So that means that Zack looks like a PlayStation 5 character. Freaking Sephiroth, just seeing him walk around and talk, interacting with people, is just so gorgeous to see in action. Environments have been totally rebuilt. Every single piece of every single environment looks utterly brilliant, and they kind of had to do this. Not just because of, honestly, this being such a big technical update, but on the original PSP, it was a single stick. In the original PSP version of Crisis Core, you could not freely look around very easily. So because of it, the game could kind of look like crap on your tiny screen, and you probably wouldn't notice. With Crisis Core Reunion, though, this game is big, it's completely rebuilt, and now being able to freely turn the camera whenever you want with the right joystick, like any other modern game, you really get a chance to gawk and enjoy at all these different scenes that exist in the Final Fantasy VII universe. Walking through the slums, getting a chance to see these very interesting conversations between Zack and Aerith. I mean, seriously, this is a piece of the actual Final Fantasy VII timeline that we've never gotten such a great look at. But beyond just the graphics, they have completely redone the combat system to be a million times better. This is by far, more than anything else, this alone is worth the price. Now, on the original PSP version, it definitely worked. I mean, I beat the game 2 or 3 times on PSP. I beat it on the hardest difficulty. It was definitely playable, but the way the game worked was with this weird scrolling toggle system. You would actually press the shoulder buttons to select magic manually one by one. You'd have to tell it, like, scrolling to the right 3 times and then throw a magic spell and then scroll back to attack. It was very, very counterintuitive, and honestly, it was clunky as hell. In Reunion, they've designed a totally new system that, in my opinion, is just so brilliant, where basically you have an attack button, a dodge button, block, and then whenever you're holding L1, it opens up your quick spells. So you can set 6 different pieces of magic that are very, very accessible, whether it is Fire Blade or trying to unleash Dark Thundaga. All this stuff works so quick, so clean, so efficient, and I kind of love this because, honestly, this game can be as hard as you want it to be. There's a lot of optional side missions that give you revamped versions of the bosses. There's missions that have you running through different paths of levels you've done in the past, and really, this new control style is so quick, it is so fluid. I love, love, love it. It's just so exciting to get your equipment and load out your own personal set of spells and then go back into these missions. I had such a blast with this. Literally, every time they gave me a new set of side missions, I would do all of them. I don't care about how long it takes. I did all of them. Now, the side mission system in this is interesting because they're very, very short. Every quest in this game is basically about 5 minutes long, and that's the longest ones. Some of them are done in like 2 or 3 minutes. I had a feeling that a lot of this stuff was designed because the game was originally built for the PlayStation Portable. I always got the vibe that the side quests were intended for something you'd play on your lunch break. When you're at home, you can enjoy the long cutscenes and big dramatic plot elements, and then typically while you were just wandering around during the day, that's when you do side quests. These quests, these side activities are still incredibly fun because they can unlock new magic, new armor, new all sorts of tiny collectibles that make you, in my opinion, way stronger. But let me talk about the other part of this combat that's actually been tweaked, which is the slot wheels. This thing is a bit strange in the original version because it seems random, but it really isn't. Whenever you're engaged in combat, this thing is just always moving, and basically, depending on what pops up, gives you different bonuses. Sometimes it'll be a big, crazy summon that'll wipe out the enemy team. If it's 3 things like Sephiroth or Sung, it can give you an instant limit break, get your girlfriend Aerith to pop up, and you get fully healed. And along with that magic and spells and super attacks, it can also just give you stuff like infinite mana for a short time, or if it does something like pops up the special attack thing, you can just do your strikes again and again and again for 0 AP. Or it can level you up. Now, this seems random, but if you actually pay attention, it definitely comes at a very even rate. If you keep doing side quests, if you're grinding out the main quest, you're going to notice you're always getting experience points. You're always getting closer to that next level. You're kind of just waiting for it to pop up on the slot reel. I kind of like this because it just feels that slight bit of random. The things pop up at a good pace. Most boss fights, you're going to get a big cool summon. If you run out of MP and you can't get enough mana potions or ether to try and get yourself casting again, a lot of times you'll get that next reel. This feels much better balanced than it was in the original game, and also it's a lot less intrusive. On a tiny PSP screen, sometimes these slots would drive me nuts because they take over the screen. Having them be tiny and up in the corner feels much, much, much smoother. But let's face some facts. You're probably not playing this game for the cool combat. You're playing it for that amazing story. Now, I have to say, the new voice actors, they've redone all the audio in this. They've done new arrangements of the music that are fantastic. But the best part of this, and also the one major gripe I have, is that they've taken all of the actors from the Final Fantasy VII Remake and they've had them play their characters here. That means the guy that's playing Cloud is now playing a younger version of Cloud, or somebody like Sephiroth is playing young Sephiroth, and Zack is obviously playing Zack. But sadly, Zack is front and center. He is the playable character. He has the most dialogue. He interacts with everybody, including characters that in the past didn't have a voice. Every character now has full audio dialogue, and that's cool. Some of the lines that Zack says, I do think that Zack is sadly the weakest voice actor in this game. In the original Crisis Core, there was like a fun silliness to it at times, where it did feel like Zack was having fun. Zack was being a goofy character. It reminded me a lot of like the Tidus laughing scene from Final Fantasy X, where that came out technically just a couple years before Crisis Core did, and it still felt like it had that vibe. That laugh was so cringy in FF10, but it was supposed to be. That was supposed to be Tidus being a goofball. He was trying to cheer up his friends, and Zack, a lot of times, kept that same energy. The new voice actor, when he's trying to be funny, he doesn't quite nail funny. And when he's trying to be serious, he really doesn't nail serious. And I feel bad about that. It just feels like he's just not quite getting it. And I know that we're about to be seeing a lot more of Zack probably in the next Final Fantasy VII Remake. This kind of lets me down because it's not just a matter of the fact that he's not a great voice actor, but there's just so much important, giant pieces of lore that people are going to want to know. Where the Buster Sword came from, what Sephiroth was like back when he was the war hero, like the origins of Shinra, like why this organization created Soldier, and what it was like seeing freaking Zack meeting Aerith. Like these major pivotal moments that objectively changed the entire course of Final Fantasy VII history. It sucks when this guy sounds a bit flat, a bit bored, a bit uninterested. It is a bit of a letdown. Now, the other gripe I have is a bit more tiny, but the in-engine stuff looks fantastic. All this stuff with the new character models, the new environments, the new audio, that stuff's fantastic. But whenever there is the pre-done cutscenes, these seem to be identical. They're straight up just the cutscenes that existed on the PSP of like Sephiroth and Angeal and Genesis chopping up Juno Reactor, or like fancy scenes of people jumping around on moving trains and stuff like that. They don't look bad, but it's weird that the pre-rendered cutscenes look so much worse than now the in-engine stuff. It creates this weird bit of disparity. I can't really say it's bad overall. It just makes me wish that they had somehow been able to spruce this up a bit more, fix it up just a tiny bit more, because this isn't quite what I hoped it would be. Just those cutscenes. The game itself overall, though, is so far beyond my expectations. This is exactly what I hoped a Crisis Core remake would be. Although technically it's not quite a full-blown remake, it certainly feels like it. It's the same story, it's the same side quests, it's the same unlockables, but so much more playable, so much more flashy, so much more fun. I cannot wait. I haven't been platinum games very much lately. I am going to play this game and platinum the heck out of it and relive some of my favorite retro FF7 memories, all in preparation for the next FF7 remake. Okay, so we've talked about some good and some bad, but let's go over to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Crisis Core Reunion a 9 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching this video, gamers. If you enjoyed it, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Man, thank you Square Enix for the review code. Thanks for letting me play this early. As an FF7 fan, this was a true delight. You guys are going to dig this game. Oh God, I hope that fart didn't get on camera. Oh, alright. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.